Welcome to Women in the Arena podcast, the podcast celebrating women doing extraordinary things in plain sight. I'm your host, Audra Egan, and our mission is to elevate the value, strength, and resilience each woman brings to the world. Without further delay, let's go ahead and start the show. Welcome to Season 3 of Women in the Arena podcast. I'm your host, Audra Egan, and thank you so much for being part of this community that celebrates women doing extraordinary things in plain sight. We are celebrating yet another magnificent woman today, so let's go ahead and start the show. Welcome in, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me again this week. This week, I have such an amazing woman with me. She is a trailblazer, she is a trendsetter, and she is just thoughtful and kind and down to earth. I am joined this week by Michelle DeFeo, who is the CEO of Laurent Perrier Champagne, and that is actually from Champagne, France. She is the very first female CEO for the U.S. division, and this Laurent Perrier Champagne is actually 200 years old, and it's owned by two sisters, which is an amazing feat in and of itself. She is a trailblazer in her leadership style, in her mentor style. She has overcome humble beginnings to create this magnificent legacy for herself and for her staff. It is my pleasure and my honor to introduce to you Michelle. Michelle, thank you so much for joining me today, and welcome to the show.
Audra, it is my extreme pleasure to be here with you and to be considered worthy of being one of the women in the arena that you are having on your podcast. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh my gosh, it is so fun to have you here. And first things first, Michelle has sent ahead a bottle of champagne for me to enjoy while we're talking. So who knows what I'll sound like at the end of this interview, but it definitely will be entertaining.
I highly recommend it. The more champagne you drink, the more interesting I tend to be. So that, works out perfectly.
Well, then it'll work out great for the audience too, because we will both be giggling by the end of it. I also, as I'm struggling to open this bottle of champagne, wanted to let you know that Michelle was incredibly generous to us when I recently went to Alaska and celebrated a 50th birthday. She had sent along to us 2 bottles of champagne for us all to enjoy and to toast to each other. What a special treat. And Michelle has given us an amazing idea to toast yourself every year on your birthday. Michelle, what made you come up with that, to toast to yourself on your birthday?
So I'm very, very lucky in that my the vast majority of my career has been spent in the champagne business. So even I actually started when I was just about 22. I had just turned 22. I was barely of legal drinking age, and I got my first job as an administrative assistant in a champagne company. And it somehow just started at that point that I've always loved my birthday. I've loved birthdays in general. It's kind of our special day. Yes, of course, we share it with other people, but it's our day to in my mind, to think about what was the last year like and what do we want the next year to be like. So for me, I just kind of started looking for some time to spend by myself on my birthday to think about those questions. And because I've been lucky enough to work in the champagne business, I would have a bottle of champagne and I would think, okay, before the whole day gets started, because, we're always very busy, I'm going to go watch the sunrise somewhere. I'm going to bring a bottle of champagne and I want the very first thing that I taste on the day of my birthday to be champagne. And it was just kind of, it's maybe just an hour that I spend at the beginning of every year on my birthday where I feel special. I'm having that special moment. I'm celebrating myself. I'm saying goodbye to the things that I don't want to bring into the new year. I'm welcoming in the ones that I do. And it's just it's a wonderful way to kind of welcome in the new year.
Well, you have inspired me to do this now and and forever more. So my birthday is in 20 days from this recording, and I will be definitely popping a bottle of champagne on that day, because that day I hit a new decade. I entered the 50 Club, which I am actually super excited about. I know that sounds weird, but I'm super excited about 50, and I'm going to start it out right with a bottle of champagne.
I love it. I love it. And Audra, I'm right behind you on that. So it's and that's an even bigger one. We may have to get you a magnum of champagne, or at least one bottlings for that. The bottle that you're opening right now. So I just, even though it's just a little, I know that this is just audio, but just so everyone knows a couple little tricks about opening a bottle of champagne. There's a little twist on the cage that holds the cork onto the bottle. No matter if it's champagne or prosecco or cava, it's always 6 times that you want to turn that little key on the side of the wire cage. That'll loosen it up, make sure that it's covered. And then ideally you want to open it up without any noise, because that keeps the maximum bubbles in the bottle. But at the same time, you could also open it up with a huge flare and a big noise, because nothing else sounds like celebration like a cork popping out of the bottle of champagne. So what do you think? You think
Well, let's see what I can do. I've got the cage off, so let's see. I've got it in front of the microphone. Let's see if it. There we go! Woohoo!
Perfect.
Now it's a celebration.
That is one of my favorite sounds.
So I have poured myself a glass of champagne. Let's do a quick toast before we get into our interview. So, Michelle, to you, thank you for being here. And to the audience, I also toast to all of you for being here and supporting us over this last year. We're entering our 1-year anniversary. So toast to you, Michelle, and toast to all of you that are listening.
Cheers to 1 year of Women in the Arena, and to you, Audra. It's wonderful. Yeah. Cheers.
Thank you. Cheers. So what I wanted to talk to you about this week is your resiliency and your willingness to be different and to change as necessary. Like I said in the beginning, you were a trailblazer, and this this past year has proven no less of that fact, because you are the CEO of a champagne company, which denotes celebration and happy and party and that kind of thing. And the last year has not been celebration and party and happy. A year ago, you find yourself in the champagne business with no one to sell champagne to, because all of your clients, the restaurants, resorts, who you supply to, are closed.
Sure.
So what do you do when they're closed?
And of course, then there's just the idea of, wow, we're in the middle of this extremely scary situation globally with death and dysfunction all around us. And do we really want to celebrate? And, what does that mean? And, so about a year ago, so this is, we're pretty early in the pandemic stages then, there was the part of me that thought, okay, well, why am I doing what I'm even doing? Right? On kind of an existential level, what do I do? Why does this matter when there is this huge, life and death situations that are around us?
And also, Michelle, explain where you were sitting, because I think that will give everybody a really good heightened picture of where you were sitting and how close to the epicenter you actually are.
Yes, that is very true. So our office is in Long Island City, Queens, in the borough of Queens in New York City. And I live about a 25-minute walk from our office. And we were literally, when you looked at the horrible images at the beginning of the pandemic of what was going on at Elmhurst Hospital, those are our neighbors. That is very close by. This is where I am right now. This was the epicenter in March, in April of 2020. And it was absolutely terrifying. And of course, there were a lot of people that decided to leave the city and kind of run away from the pandemic. And I don't exactly know why, but I knew in my heart that I didn't want to leave. I'm from New Jersey originally. My family's from Pennsylvania. I'm from New Jersey, but I am really kind of a New Yorker at heart. And I thought, no, this is what my city is experiencing, and I don't want to leave it. I want to be here and I want to help. I want to support the businesses that remain open. I want to, still be here. But it got really scary really quick. And by the time I thought, well, maybe this isn't the smartest thing, it was too late. We weren't going to go anywhere. So what we saw around us were we saw our neighbors get sick. Literally, my next door neighbors were very ill, and two of them actually were very close to death. Our very good friends here in the neighborhood, their next door neighbor did pass away because of COVID. So it was very scary. So certainly there were a couple of months where it was like, well, what are we going to do? Of course, I have a fiduciary responsibility as the president of Laurent Perrier in the U.S. to make sure that I keep our business going. But I also felt a personal responsibility because I have worked for Laurent Perrier for 14 years. I've worked for them twice, which is weird, right? Like, how often is that you hear of someone who worked for a company and then they left, but then they came back? I started working for Laurent Perrier in 1998, well, a very long time ago. It occurs to me now that there are literally people who drink champagne legally who were not born when I started working for Laurent Perrier in 1998. So I had already been in the business for a couple of years, and I was a salesperson for Laurent Perrier. I was a sales manager, and I was one of the founding members of our U.S. subsidiary. So we wanted to control our own route to market and everything we're doing in the country. When I did my first re-budgeting process after the pandemic, which was really just at the end of April 2020, I just kind of said, okay, what do I think things are going to be like? What do I think our numbers are going to be? And, it sounds a little cold to say, what are our numbers? But the numbers define how many people I can keep employed. How many people in my company can I continue to keep on? What do I think it's going to look like? And when I did my first projections completely independently of anything else, they were within a few bottles of sales of what I had done the year that I joined. And it was really devastating to think that the last 10 years of efforts were going to be wiped away because of this terrible situation in the market. So I kind of dug my heels and I said, you know what? No, I don't accept that. We're going to go down fighting. And I asked our house in France, who is family owned and female run, as you mentioned. And I said, look, I know that all of our competitors and other businesses are laying people off and firing people and letting people go and saving all their money. I said, please, let's do something different. Let's go down fighting. Let's put all our resources for it. I know that me and my team, we're going to fight and work harder than we've ever worked. And let me tell you, we worked really hard before that. I said, if we're going to survive this, we need to have all hands on deck. And we're going to do everything that we can to get through this, not just for our sales, but because, as you mentioned, Laurent Perrier has been making champagne since 1812. We've always been independent. We've always been family owned. And I did not want to see us become weakened so that we could be an acquisition target and that everything that we have literally done for centuries would go away. I view myself and my job as a steward of making sure that Laurent Perrier continues on to further generations and remains an independent, family-run house making quality champagnes. So they agreed. They said, okay, we'll keep your team intact. We'll keep everyone on the payroll at 100%. Let's see what we can do. And my team rose to the occasion, and we built a plan, and we implemented it, and we ended up, it's still kind of extraordinary. We did about 40% of our business in restaurants. And despite that, and despite all the restaurant closures, we ended up being up almost 10% for the year.
And how does that happen? I mean, you had all of these restaurants closed. Like I said, you had resorts closed. Your core business was closed. And I also think that it's important to note, because this is also unusual, that 85% of your sales team are women, which is amazing, which also speaks to that independent spirit that you have and that willingness to take chances and do things different. And I think that all translates into how you survived and thrived over the last year, where many of your competitors, many of your neighbors did not. So how did you reinvent yourself, because you didn't have a core business, and still come out on top?
I don't think that it's a coincidence that 85% of our sales team are women, and the way that we approached what was unfolding with the pandemic. So, of course, from one day to the next, we saw, I can call them accounts, right? Accounts that supported Laurent Perrier for a long time, but accounts are people. Buyers, wine buyers, sommeliers, they're people. They were losing their jobs. They were suddenly, restaurateurs and chefs that we had been working with for years didn't know if the restaurant that they had, that they had finally just opened, if they were going to survive and what these impacts were going to be. So what we decided is that we're going to do everything that we can possibly do to help them. So with the restaurant side, we were talking about this, and I have to say we had so many video conferences that literally were screaming matches and crying fits. And I like that. And I like the fact that we were able to be open and emotional and raw and put forward what we thought we needed to do. And what we agreed to do as a team was, look, no matter what happens, we need to support the people who have supported us for a long time. So we started something called the Small Acts of Kindness program. And it sounds kind of silly, but it did not end up being silly. We took all of the available resources that we had, and we made sure that every restaurant that we have been working with, that we would buy takeout from them. And we may buy dinner from them and get it delivered to someone who we knew that had lost their job, who worked in a restaurant. And we said, whatever we can do to make this less awful for our colleagues, like, we're okay, right? The House has agreed to protect us, at least for a while. So then let's take our resources and let's make sure that all of the people that we know and love are taken care of. Let's support their business. Let's support them personally. So we did that because it made us feel good. And for me as a manager, that's what really the most important thing became. It was really, how do we get through this as people? And how do we also at the same time make this something that could be good for our business? And anyone that tells you that they knew that doing this was going to be good for them later is lying. No one knew what was going to happen. So I just said, look, I know that, there were times when I thought this could be my swan song. This could be the end of this company. But we're going to go down doing the right thing and doing good things for other people. And at least we will feel good about it as we go down and drown.
And I think that's remarkable because nobody knew what was going on. It was very scary everywhere you went. And you did something different. You decided to put people first and your business second. You decided to take care of the people. And that meant your employees and your partners. That's different from what a lot of companies did. They did the opposite. You said, let's protect the people. Let's take care of the people. And you did it in really unique ways. We're going to take a quick break, but we'll be back with more from Michelle DeFeo. This episode is sponsored by Belleville Capital Management. When you need a friend in the small business arena, reach out to Belleville for your planning, lending, and investment needs. A friendly consultant will help you find the solutions that you are looking for. Belleville Capital Management, a friend to small business.
We did, and I didn't know how that was going to play out, and now we hear time and again as our restaurant partners reopen, and also what we would do is we would buy because retailers, wine stores were super busy, and it was very difficult for them as well. So we would buy lunch for a store from one of our restaurants that was still open if we could. Say, okay, well, this is how we can kind of help them both. And I had no idea how that was going to end up. I just knew that in order for me to keep me and my team engaged and to make us not fall into the depths of despair, that this is something that we would try, and it would, if nothing else, it would make us feel good. It turns out it actually worked out even better than we could have expected. And on the one hand, I'm really happy that now that things are reopened, we're hearing time and again from our restaurant partners, especially, you were there for us. We're not going to forget that. We're going to support you. And right now our numbers are so good, we can't even keep enough champagne in stock, which is stunning to me. But what also at the same time makes me really sad is that they're telling us that we were the only ones that did this. And that's really problematic to me. And that is also the difference between a family-run and probably a female-run company versus other, brands that we compete with who didn't do that cut every single spend, that weren't going to spend $150 at a restaurant to send some fried chicken to some retailers who were working late that night. So I'm so proud of our house for supporting us in that, and so proud of my team for making that all happen. And it literally is the very definition of doing well by doing good.
And like I said, that's such a simple concept that I think has gotten lost over the years. And, as we mentioned, 85% of your team are female.
Mhm.
That means that you had moms that were trying to balance their jobs and their children. How did you address that?
So I am not a mom myself. Um, I do, however, have a little brother who is 16 years younger than I am. So I saw firsthand, being 16 years old and having this new little brother, how hard it is to have a baby, how intense that is. And so I think that's also probably why I didn't want any of my own. Really hard, and it's really hard to do well. But I also grew up in the proverbial village where my grandmother lived down the street and my aunt lived on the next block. There was a support network there. And what I was seeing with a number of my sales team who are women, who are mothers, and some of whom have very young children, including one who actually had a newborn, it was just kind of like, look, these are very high performing, extremely wonderful women at what they do day to day. And I'll throw, our male sales team as well. They have children too. And it was very important to them to be with their family. In fact, I had all kinds of situations ranging from a newborn baby during the pandemic to one of the men on our sales team who had been doing care for his elderly father-in-law. And what I said to my team first and foremost was, first of all, safety. I don't want any of you to get sick, and whatever happens with our business happens with our business, but I will never forgive myself if anything happens to you. So stop going out into the market. Don't do anything. Do what you need to do in order to remain safe. And then in terms of flexibility, look, all bets are off. Let's do the best that we can, but let's also define what our priorities are. And if you're caring for an elderly relative, or if you are caring for a newborn, or you're caring for an 8-year-old who has an amazingly inquisitive mind, who is, I'm a little biased. I've got a little bit of a soft spot in my heart for one of my sales team's daughters who I absolutely adore, who's so sharp and so smart and so, asking all these questions all the time. You need to feed her. You need to feed that intellect. You need to be there for her. The business stuff, do it when you have time. But you need to prioritize your family first. To me, there's just no other way. How does anyone bring their best game to their job if they know that they are not taking care of their family as a result?
It's hard. It's hard because you're never fully present. I mean, that's the struggle. That's the struggle under the best of times. When I'm at work, that means I'm not paying attention to what's going on at home. When I'm at home, I'm not paying attention to what's going on at work. Like I said, you did something different as a CEO and went, we're going to prioritize this in the order that it should be. And let's hope that the business takes care of us as we're taking care of other things. That's, like I said, that's super unique. It seems obvious. It's not done very often. And your team did it, and you did it so well.
Well, and honestly, Audra, the research bears this out, right? I mean, the research tells us all the time, even with something as simple as taking vacations, the more vacation time people take, the more productive they tend to be when they are at work. If people are taking care of themselves, if they're taking care of their families, when they're at work, they are fully there, they are fully engaged, they're getting the best results. Otherwise, it's a law of diminishing returns. And to me, because I didn't know if we as a company, at least in the US, I knew that the house would survive, but I wasn't sure if us as a little independent importer in the US would survive this. I'm not going to make people suffer if the ship is going down, but I also knew that they were going to be doing everything that they could, even more, if they were getting their core needs met. It was obvious, but at the same time, I was kind of taking a risk and saying, well, this is what I want us to look like. And I will say as well that so this was kind of, where things started and what my thoughts were. And then, of course, in June, George Floyd was murdered. And then that took on an entirely different level of kind of importance in terms of what are we doing and why are we doing it? And are we just here to be cogs in in a wheel that's going to keep things turning? Or does it really matter what we stand for, what we care about, who we are as people, and what we're going to do every day? I had actually had on my to-do list for 10 years to start a corporate social responsibility program. And I'm ashamed to say that it took me 10 years to do it. When everything happened in Minneapolis with George Floyd, and then obviously Breonna Taylor, and too many names to mention, unfortunately, I thought, okay, this is what gets me out of bed every day. If I'm running a company, I need to feel good about what I'm doing. And I know that if I am that committed, because I feel good about what I'm doing, what we're doing as a company, I'm going to bring so much more to the table. So we put into place our corporate social responsibility program, and I won't go into the details of it, but long story short, the part of it that I love the most is that we gave all of our employees extra paid time off to go volunteer. And the stories that we are hearing and the good that we have done as a collective group of people as a result just makes my heart burst. I mean, on my own little side, I became a troop leader for the Girl Scouts Troop 6000 in New York, which is the troop that specifically works with homeless girls in New York City. And I now have my own co-troop. I'm a co-troop leader for my very own troop. We're going to get to go to camp in a couple of weeks, which I'm really excited about. But I basically said, look, we're all going, tooth and nail. We're just every day we're working so hard for our businesses. What if we also take just a little bit of that energy and that commitment that we have as people? And I've hired great people. What if we take some of that just to do some good in the world? And it literally repaid itself 100-fold in terms of, I loved last night when I had a troop meeting, when I had to say, you know what, I can't take this business call because I'm a troop leader and I'm going to be talking to my girls tonight. And it just, the fact that I'm allowed to do that, the fact that I'm encouraged to do that now by the company because of this policy that I've put in place, it's, I probably shouldn't say this out loud. I don't want my boss to hear this, but it makes me ever want to leave this company. So, and it seems like that's also what the result has been for the folks that work for us as well.
So can you share with us other stories of other volunteerism that happened with your employees?
Oh, absolutely. Let's see. So we have one of my colleagues on our sales team is in Philadelphia, and she has a new baby. And well, I guess she's not that new. She's a little over a year old now, but she was researching different volunteering opportunities, and she learned about diaper insecurity, which completely shocked me. I'd never thought of this, but as soon as she told me about it, I was like, wow, that makes so much sense. There are women who can't afford to buy diapers for their babies. And so they recycle them, they try to reuse them, or the babies have to they don't get changed when they should get changed because diapers are expensive. So she works with the Diaper Bank of Philadelphia and also part of our CSR program is also to make donations. So we made a corporate donation in her name to the Diaper Bank of Philadelphia so that women would be able to get fresh diapers so they can change their babies when their babies need to be changed. So then she took that a step further and said she wanted to deliver the diapers herself. So she goes and she delivers the diapers with her 1-year-old in the car with her. She drives around Philadelphia and she delivers babies to newborns around Philadelphia. And then I have my colleague who is in Marin County in California, who is doing Meals on Wheels and who is taking her young children, her 2 young daughters, to go with her to deliver food to elderly people who are shut in. And it's so, I love that. I'm kind of preferring, I guess I'm specifically calling out the women who are doing this with their children, including our manager in Florida, who also has her daughter with her. They're taking their daughters with them to go and deliver good things to people that are helping them. They're creating a culture that shows to their daughters that we are supposed to help other people. And that was an unexpected benefit that I didn't think was going to happen when I said, oh, take some, you have some extra PTO and we'll do a donation in your name. And these women said, okay, I'm going to show my daughters what it means to help other people by virtue of what you're allowing us to do. And to be very honest, it's a small program in terms of dollars. And if there are any small business owners that want to know the exact dollars and cents, I encourage them to contact me because we didn't have a lot of money. We didn't know what the year was going to be like. So it was a small program. But the emotional impact of not just our managers, but then also their daughters going and seeing food deliveries and diaper deliveries and helping other people. To me, that's like, wow, I can't imagine a better result of getting up and going to work in the morning.
No, because you are, like I said, I keep calling you a trailblazer because you did some things different and you changed the world. And I know that you probably are thinking, no, I just did a tiny little part. Well, I guarantee you that the recipients of those diapers, of those meals, their worlds were changed. So you have changed the world, and you did it. Like I said, you did it in an an environment that you could have gone the route that everybody else did, which was let's batten down the hatchets, let's let's make ourselves as small as possible. We'll wait till the storm passes and then we'll get back to business.
Yeah.
And you decided, no, we're not going to do it that way because I'm full of, we're surrounded by misery and despair, and that will just create more misery and despair. Let's do something different. Let's create joy and let's see where that takes us.
I love that synopsis, Audra, and I have to say I was so disheartened as a person to see that our core competitors are the largest luxury goods company in the world, and is led by one of the richest men in the world. I don't even know how many times over a billionaire, and it really disappointed me to see that the reaction that some companies and people had was to do nothing. And they have the resource. They have many more resources that we do. And I kind of was like, well, we don't have a whole lot. So we're going to do what we can with the little resources that we have. And I kind of felt bad, like coming forward to people and saying, oh, well, here's what we can do. And we also were doing things like, I want to call out this amazing organization called Black Wine Professionals, which was started post George Floyd. So in July of 2020, this wonderful woman named Julia Coney, who started an organization to say, look, we need more Black wine professionals visible in the industry. So we reached out and we said, look, let's do a little scholarship program. We can't afford much. We don't know what the year is going to be. And I shouldn't even say almost. I was worried about going to her and saying, we can provide 6 scholarships for you and for your director of education and 5 of your members to achieve this accreditation in champagne knowledge through the French Wine Society. Through the Wine Scholars Guild. So, and I was embarrassed because it's not a huge amount of money. And I was kind of embarrassed. It's like, it's not really enough. And I was shocked to learn months after that we were the only company that did anything. And I was afraid that we were going to look bad because our investment, our spend wasn't big enough. And I was so devastated to hear that other huge companies didn't do a damn thing. I don't understand that. I don't understand the logic of that as people. I don't understand the logic of that as a business. To not help in any way that you can. But I've learned from that, right? Like, we may be small, but we're punching above our weight class. The things that we're doing are things that actually matter. And at the end of the day, that makes me sleep well. That makes me feel good about what I've done over the course of that day. If it's a 10 or a 12 or a 15-hour day, I'm going to go to sleep that night and I'm going to feel good that we brought some good stuff into the world and we did what we could to support people. And again, this is good business, right? When one of the recipients of our scholarships, we're also doing a masterclass for them. When they learn about our brand, when they learn about who we are as people, not just us in the US, but also the wonderful family that we work for in France, that will also have good business ramifications. And to me, it's like, why isn't everybody doing this? And I wish that they were. I really do wish that we were doing things that everyone else was doing, but only to as much as we could afford. It's a little disappointing to learn that we're on the vanguard of that. We should not be. Everyone else should be doing this as well. And the fact that they're not is frankly shameful.
Well, hopefully you will have set the bar and set the example and others will follow. But what you did, and that what I want to make sure that I punctuate here, and we've talked a lot about mindset in various different ways throughout different interviews on this show. What you did is you approached this problem from a mindset of of vastness, of wealth rather than scarcity.
Mm.
You looked at what you had rather than what you had not and said, this is what we've got to share. And this is what we're going to do to share. It may not, in the grand scheme of things, it may not be much, but it's what we've got and we're going to share it. So that is from a mindset of abundance. And lo and behold, your mindset and your actions based on abundance multiplied. And would you mind sharing with everybody how far up you are because of that?
Oof. Well, we are, so the champagne world in the US suffered quite a bit last year. We are down as a category about 19%. And at Laurent Perrier, we are up over 15%. But I do want to say, Audra, if I could say that thank you. I love that I love what you just said, but I need to give credit to my team. That this was my team being out there and bringing these ideas. And it's also because of them. And what I also had an abundance of this past year was humility. So even though I have been doing this for 25 years, I listened. I listened to my team because I didn't know what was going on. And I am proud of myself, for realizing that I don't know what to do here. I know that I need to listen. And my team brought up these ideas, and my team was very much involved, and we coalesced and we did this together. But it was that combination of, you're absolutely right, this mindset of abundance. I absolutely love that. And then my team thinking about, okay, how can we make this really work for us and make us feel good, and me listening to that. That humility, I think, is something that every leader of any company in this past year, since the beginning of the pandemic, anyone who thought that they already knew the answers was wrong. And I like knowing the answers. I really do. But I'm very happy with myself that I let my guard down and I was able to be humble and vulnerable and truly listen, because I learned a lot from my team, and I credit them with our success as much as me.
That's the difference, is that you responded to this crisis as a human rather than a position. And that made all the difference in the world. It made all the difference in the world to you, to your employees, to your company, to your partners, and to strangers that you'd never even met. Like I said, you have been on the cutting edge of blazing a trail for others to follow. You changed worlds, and you have started to help influence a culture of these little girls, that this is going to leave an impression on them for the remainder of their lives. And hopefully we will have other little girls, maybe 25, 30 years from now, that are CEOs of their companies and will take from your playbook the same thing. And for that, I am utterly grateful.
I can think of no better legacy that I could leave upon this earth. And I'm so grateful to the Girl Scouts for giving me this opportunity to work with these young girls to do that. And it's a really good feeling when there's a confluence of doing good for the world and also doing good for your company. And I love and again, I do not think that there is any way that we would have succeeded as a company this past year if I didn't focus on that human element. It simply would not have worked. And seeing that actually work symbiotically like that is, it's been one of the most satisfying, it's absolutely the most satisfying thing in my career. And I hope it continues. I hope this was not an aberration. I hope that this is the way that things continue to go.
I have no doubt that it is going to continue, and I cannot wait to watch and see how this develops as your brand continues to develop through the U.S. For those of everybody listening, and by the way, as we've been doing this interview, I have been drinking my champagne, and it's amazing, by the way. And it's just in case anybody wants to know, it is their Brut, and it's perfect. It is not too dry, not too sweet. It's right there in the middle, and it is awesome. So if anyone is interested in finding a bottle or 2 or 6, where would they find it? I mean, we're not only are we, we're at this point, we are in 35 countries. I cannot believe it, but we're in 35 countries. So where would they find a bottle or so to enjoy for themselves?
At Laurent Perrier, very much like the kind of businesses that you support, Audra, in your podcast and the businesses that you're talking about, we really support independent companies. And so you can find us in a lot of qualitative independent wine merchants around the country, whether it be something like K&L in the San Francisco area, or Sherry Lehman in New York, or but if you're not in a major city where you can find Laurent Perrier, or Binny's in the Chicago area is a huge supporter of ours. But also wine.com. It delivers to everywhere in the country, essentially. So you can always find Laurent Perrier in those great retailers that we support.
And if we had any female small business owners that wanted to take from your blueprint, would they be able to reach out to you and have a conversation so they can create that same environment within their own organizations?
I've actually, it's interesting that you asked that, Audra, because I'm not a great PowerPoint person. So we kind of have kind of a not great PowerPoint about our CSR program. We've been asked for by a number of people, and I'm like, I got to get better at PowerPoint. But I would be more than happy to share everything that we've learned and everything that we've done with anyone who's interested. I would say that the easiest way to reach out to me, because it's the shortest little address, would be to reach out to me through Instagram. My handle is at MDLovesLP. I seriously do. MDLovesLP. Michelle DeFeo loves Laurent Perrier. Send me a DM there, and I will gladly send you my email address so we can exchange on this and talk about it. And again, as I've mentioned, I am still so taken aback that these small initiatives that we put forward had such huge results. And I would love to have that replicated in any industry. And if I can help do that in any way, I would be more than happy to do so. Please do reach out.
Thank you. And thank you for your generosity with that. And I want to give you an opportunity to leave the audience with a lasting thought.
Oh.
Yeah. That was a really big swallow, Michelle.
My glass. That was the end of my glass. The last sip of champagne is always the saddest, I suppose. No. Yeah. The ending thought would really just be that look, I'm a businesswoman. I worry about profits. I worry about margins. I think about those things all the time. But I have never had better profits or margins than I have since I put people first. And this is something that I'm going to continue putting forward as a priority for what I do in my business. And that there is no reason that those two things cannot happen at the same time. And I also will, again, this is just something that it makes me feel good about what I do on a daily basis. And we can do good and we can do well for our businesses at the same time. And everything that I've done, especially over the course of this past year, truly does bear that out. And I will gladly share all of the spreadsheets with anyone who is interested in learning about that with whomever would ask for them.
Thank you for, like I said, thank you for your generosity. Thank you for creating a blueprint that we can all follow. And thank you for putting people first. Thank you for remembering that you're human first, a CEO second, and putting the humans that work for you and with you first. I can't thank you enough for that. And I know that the people that you have directly affected can't thank you enough for that. So, and once again, thank you for being on this show. And I want to give you one last cheers. Cheers to you and to your team. Thank you for putting yourselves out there in the world and making it a little better place. So thank you so much, and cheers to you.
Well, thank you, Audra. Cheers to you. Cheers to all of the women in the arena. We are fighting the good fight and we are winning. And cheers to you for bringing all of these stories to the forefront. Thank you. Cheers.
Well, thank you. Cheers to all of you, and we will see you again next time. That's our show. I want to send a special thank you out to our guests for being so generous with their experiences and their stories, as well as our sponsors so they can allow us to continue to tell these stories. I also want to say a special, special thank you to all of you, this community that we have been building one person at a time so we can endeavor to change the world one interview at a time. I could not do any of this without your support, and for that, I am forever grateful. I look forward to doing this again, so we'll see you all next week.
This is just the beginning.
That's our show. I am so grateful for each and every one of you and your unwavering support and your continued belief in this movement that has become much bigger than me, much bigger than just a podcast. It has become this forward momentum that we are all doing together. If you are ready, or you know somebody that is ready to tell your story and share your value with the world, please connect with me. You can reach me at audra@womeninthearena.net. I am so honored and thankful that you will share your story with me, and I'll make sure that it is well taken care of. I will never stop thanking each and every one of you, and I cannot wait to talk to you again next week as we share another woman's story and we celebrate her doing extraordinary things in plain sight. We'll see you next time.
This is just